This is Reading at the Library. I picked out a number of good books for us to read today. Which should we read first? How about this one? Harold and the Purple Crayon by Crockett Johnson. Wow, it says it's the 60th anniversary. An anniversary is something that happens every year, the year after something happens. So this was written 60 years ago. This is a classic. It's a very old book. Let's check it out. Harold and the Purple Crayon. One evening, after thinking it over for some time, Harold decided to go for a walk in the moonlight. But there wasn't any moon. Harold needed a moon for a walk in the moonlight. And he needed something to walk on. So he drew the moon, and he drew a horizon, and wow, he made a long straight path so he wouldn't get lost. And he set off on his walk, taking his big purple crayon with him. But he didn't seem to get anywhere on this long straight path. So he left the path for a shortcut across the field, and the moon went with him. The shortcut led right to where Harold thought a forest ought to be. So he didn't want to get lost in the woods, so he made a very small forest with just one tree. It turned out to be an apple tree. Oh, that's very clever. He's making things up as he goes along. The apples would be very tasty, Harold thought, when they got red. So he put a frightening dragon underneath the tree to guard the apples. It was a terribly frightening dragon. Ooh, should be careful. It even frightened Harold. Oh no, he got scared. His hand holding the purple crayon shook. Uh-oh. Suddenly he realized what was happening. But by then, Harold was in over his head in the ocean. Oh, he made waves and he fell in the ocean. Oh my gosh. He came up thinking fast. And in no time he was climbing aboard a trim little boat. He quickly set sail. Oh, that's amazing. And then the moon sailed along with him. After he tried to sail long enough, Harold made land without much trouble. After he had sailed long enough, Harold made land without much trouble. He stepped ashore the beach, wondering where he was. Got one hand. The sandy beach reminded Harold of picnics, and the thought of picnics made him hungry. So he laid out a nice, simple picnic lunch. Very creative, very smart. There was nothing but pie. Oh my gosh. But there were all kinds of pie that Harold liked best. When Harold finished his picnic, there was quite a lot left. I bet that was a lot of pie. He hated to see so much delicious pie go, so Harold left a very hungry moose and a deserving porcupine to finish it up. There's the moose and there's the porcupine, and they're going to eat the pies. That's pretty funny. And off he went looking for a hill to climb to see where he was. Harold knew that the higher up he went, the further he could see, so he decided to make the hill into a mountain. If he went high enough, he thought, he could see the window of his bedroom. So, he was tired, and he felt like he should be getting to bed. He hoped he could see his bedroom window from on top of the mountain. But as he looked down over the other side, he slipped. And there wasn't anything on the other side of the mountain, and he was falling into thin air. Oh my gosh. But luckily, he kept his wits and his purple crayon. He made a balloon and grabbed onto it. Oh boy, that is a smart little boy. And he made a basket under the balloon big enough to stand in. He had a fine view from the balloon, but he couldn't see his window. He couldn't even see his house. Oh. So he made a house with windows. And he landed the balloon on the grass in the front yard. None of the windows was his window. He tried to think of where his windows ought to be. He made some more windows. He made a big building full of windows. He made lots of buildings full of windows. Wow. He made a whole city full of windows. Wow. But none of the windows was his window. Uh-oh. He couldn't think of where it might be. He decided to ask a policeman. Oh, very smart. That's what you should always do whenever you're lost. Ask a policeman. The policeman pointed the way Harold was going anyway, but Harold thanked him. And he walked along with the moon, wishing he was in the room and in bed. Then suddenly Harold remembered. What did he remember? He remembered where his bedroom window was when there was a moon. It was always right around the moon. Oh, okay. And then Harold made his bed. He got in it and he drew up the covers. Very clever. The purple crayon dropped on the floor, and Harold dropped off to sleep. The end. Yes, he was in his room the entire time, wasn't he? He was just in his imagination. Harold and the Purple Crayon. Now that's a good book to read in a library. Do you want to read some more?